When I told my family I was starting my own business, they laughed so hard I thought they'd choke. My father wiped tears from his eyes. My mother shook her head like I was a child playing pretend. My brother said, "You? A business?" Then he laughed harder. I just stood there, holding my idea in my hands, like it mattered. I remember the silence that followed when I didn't laugh with them. My face was red. Not from shame, but from how hard I was trying not to cry. They didn't ask what the idea was. Didn't care. To them, I'd always been the failure, the one who never quite measured up, the one who couldn't hold a job for more than a year, the one who lives in the clouds. What hurt most wasn't the laughter. It was that they never even pretended to believe in me. They made me feel small, like my dreams were a joke, like I was a joke. That day I walked out of their house and didn't speak to them again for a long time. They thought they'd shut me down, that I'd give up. I didn't. I worked. I built something from nothing. Now I own the house they live in, and they have no idea. Keep watching, because this isn't just a story about revenge. It's about what happens when the one they laughed at becomes the one they have to pay rent to. I grew up in a family where success was expected, not earned. My father ran a chain of car dealerships. My mother was a school principal. My older brother, straight A student, went on to law school. My sister, full ride to medical school. They were what my parents called real achievers. Then there was me. I wasn't stupid, but I didn't fit their mold. School bored me. I didn't care about math equations or writing essays. I liked building things, fixing old electronics, reading about people who made money in ways that didn't require suits and degrees. But in my house, if you weren't excelling on paper, you were failing. My parents always had this look when they talked about me. Half disappointment, half confusion. Like they couldn't understand how someone they raised could turn out so average. Family dinners were brutal. My brother would talk about his internship at some fancy law firm. My sister would share stories from the hospital. Then they'd turn to me. "So what are you doing these days?" That tone, that look, like they already knew the answer wasn't good. At one point I worked at a warehouse, then a call center, then a gas station. Each job chipped away at whatever dignity I had left. But deep down, I always believed I could do more. I just didn't know how yet. I used to sit in my room, headphones on, watching videos about entrepreneurship, passive income, online stores, anything that gave people freedom. I'd write ideas in a notebook, sketch out plans, but I never shared them, because in that house, dreams weren't dreams. They were punchlines. Every time I mentioned doing something different, I got the same speech: get a real job, play it safe, grow up. It didn't matter how I felt. I was the black sheep, the odd one out, the one they pitied during family gatherings. I started skipping those. The silence felt better than their fake smiles. What I really wanted wasn't money. It was respect. I just wanted someone, anyone, to look at me and say, "I believe in you." But I never got that. So I stopped asking, and started building in silence. It started with a video. Late one night, alone in my room, I watched a guy talk about how he built an online store from scratch. Nothing fancy, just simple products, simple marketing, and pure grit. He wasn't flashy, didn't have a degree, didn't come from money, but he made it work. That night, something clicked. I started digging deeper, learning about dropshipping, e-commerce, digital products, affiliate marketing. I studied until my eyes burned. For the first time in my life, I felt awake. I wasn't just dreaming anymore. I had a plan. After months of research, trial, and error, I created my own small business model. Nothing big, just a digital product store with niche content and automated delivery. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. I'd never felt that kind of pride before. So when the holidays came around, I did something I hadn't done in years. I showed up to a family gathering. I thought, maybe, just maybe, they'd listen. Dinner was the same as always. My brother bragging about some big promotion. My sister listing off her patient cases. My dad nodding proudly. My mom beaming like her kids were royalty. Then they turned to me. "So what are you doing now?" I smiled, sat up straight. "I started my own business." Silence. Then it hit. My brother barked out a laugh. "You? A business?" My sister smirked. Doing what? Selling air. My dad chuckled. Come on, son. Stop messing around. My mom sighed. You barely passed high school. This again? Even my 13-year-old cousin threw in. Can I be your first customer? And laughed like he'd just won an award. I tried to explain. Told them I was building an online store. Showed them my basic site. Talked about digital marketing, lead funnels, passive income. But they weren't listening. They were just waiting to laugh again. Grow up and get a job, my father said. Dreams don't pay the bills, my mother added. Seriously, my brother said. This is embarrassing. I felt like I was drowning in their words. That moment burned into me. Their voices, their faces, the way they looked at me like I was nothing. I didn't say a word. I just stood up, grabbed my coat, and walked out. I drove around for hours that night, thinking about every insult, every smirk, every time they made me feel like I didn't belong. By morning I made a promise. I was done trying to earn their approval. I wasn't going to prove them wrong with words. I was going to do it with success. Quiet, steady, relentless. They'd see. One day they'd all see. I didn't go back to another family gathering after that night. While they kept living their lives, parties, promotions, vacations, I went to war with myself. I picked up 2 jobs, one during the day unloading trucks at a warehouse, another at night mopping floors at a gym. I came home every night sore, dirty and exhausted. But I didn't sleep. Not yet. That's when the real work started. I'd sit at my tiny desk, open my laptop, and pour everything I had into the business. Learning design, writing copy, testing ads, setting up product listings, failing. Over and over again. I'd launch a product, nothing. Build a funnel, no clicks. Post content, 0 views. The first few months were brutal. No money, no results. Just stress and questions I couldn't answer. I ate ramen for weeks, canned beans, whatever was cheap. I stopped going out, couldn't afford it anyway. Friends stopped calling. I stopped caring. The silence started to hurt. Some nights I sat in the dark and wondered if they were right. Maybe I was stupid. Maybe I really was a joke. Who did I think I was? I'd stare at the ceiling at 4 a.m., broke, tired, and alone, asking myself if it was worth it. But I kept going, because something inside me refused to quit. One night, I got a sale. Just one. A digital guide I wrote. $19.99. I stared at the email for 5 minutes before it hit me. Someone out there actually paid for something I made. That $19 felt like $1 million. I knew it wasn't luck. It was proof. I kept pushing, testing, tweaking. Weeks later, another sale. Then 2 in a day. Then 5. By month 6, I was making more from the business than both jobs combined. I didn't celebrate. I didn't post about it. I just kept working. I upgraded my site, launched new products, built a small email list, started running smarter ads. The money wasn't huge, but it was steady. I finally quit the warehouse, then the gym, and for the first time in my life, I was my own boss. No alarms, no punching clocks, just me, my laptop, and the will to win. But I didn't tell anyone, especially not my family. They never asked how I was doing, and I never told them. I became a ghost to them, and that was fine, because I wasn't chasing their approval anymore. I was chasing something bigger: self-respect, freedom, revenge. Maybe. Quiet. Revenge. One sale at a time. 2 years. That's how long it took to go from broke and invisible to financially free. My business exploded. What started as a few digital products turned into full-scale courses, templates, licensing deals. I hired freelancers, set up systems, automated everything. I woke up one morning to see my account cross 6 figures for the first time. I didn't scream, didn't post about it. I just closed the laptop, sat back in my chair, and let the moment sink in. I did it. No loans, no handouts, no approval. I moved out of my crumbling apartment and bought a modest but beautiful house in cash. No mortgage, no debt. I traveled for the first time in my life, saw places I used to save as wallpapers, ate food that didn't come from the microwave. Every night, I still worked, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. It became about more than money. It was about proving to myself that I could build something real, even when no one believed in me. Still, I heard nothing from my family. No calls, no messages, no "we're proud of you." At first, that hurt. Then it made me laugh. One afternoon, I ran into a friend of the family at a coffee shop. We caught up briefly, and she said, "I saw your mom last week. She said you're still figuring things out." I smiled. "Yeah," I said, "still figuring it out." I walked away without correcting her. Let them think I'm lost. I was building an empire behind their backs. By then, I'd set up a shell company for privacy. All my business income flowed through it. I used it to invest quietly. Stocks, digital assets, and eventually, real estate. I started small. One rental property, then another. I never used my real name on the paperwork, just the company. I wanted distance. I wanted silence. Then one day, while browsing local foreclosure listings, I saw an address that looked familiar. I clicked it. It was my parents' house. Same house I grew up in. The one where they laughed in my face. It was in foreclosure. I stared at the screen, stunned. How? My father's business must have collapsed. I hadn't kept up. They never reached out. The listing said the bank was auctioning the property within 30 days. I didn't hesitate. I made some calls, moved funds, placed an anonymous bid through my company. It was accepted. Just like that, the house I was once humiliated in belonged to me. They didn't know, not yet, but they would. I wasn't just the black sheep anymore. I was the landlord. I didn't tell anyone I bought it. Not the bank, not the realtor, not a single soul. Everything was done through my holding company. No paper trail leading back to me personally. It wasn't about revenge, not yet. It was about closure. The bank quietly finalized the deal. Within 2 weeks, the deed was in my company's name. The house I grew up in, the house where they laughed at my dreams, was now mine. I didn't go there, didn't need to. I waited. A month later, my parents got the letter. Not an eviction notice, just a simple message. The property had changed ownership. Their mortgage was no longer valid, but the new owner was willing to let them stay as renters. I made sure the rent was fair, below market even. I didn't want to punish them. I just wanted them to feel it. That shift, from owners to tenants. They signed the lease without asking questions. Desperate people don't ask questions. I watched from a distance as their lives quietly changed. The family who once laughed at me now lived month to month, and they had no idea the person they were paying rent to was the same person they said would never amount to anything. Every time they sent a payment, it landed in my business account, on time, quiet, oblivious. They lived in my house, and still thought I was a failure, and I let them, because that to me, was the sweetest part. It was bound to happen. A few months into the lease, I got an email through the property manager. My brother had lost his job, something about downsizing. Then my dad fell ill. Medical bills started piling up. The family was in trouble. They planned to sell the house to stay afloat, but they didn't know there was nothing to sell. That house hadn't belonged to them for months. When the property manager told them, they panicked. I got a message through the management company. "We'd like to speak directly with the owner. Please, it's urgent." I said yes. Set a meeting at the real estate office. Didn't sign my name. Just said, "The owner will be present." The day of the meeting, I walked in quietly and sat across from them. My parents, my brother, even my sister came. The room went silent. My mother's face went pale. My brother stared at the floor. My sister looked confused, then furious. "You're the landlord," my mother whispered. I nodded. No smile, no gloating, just the truth. I own the house. They couldn't speak. For once there were no lectures, no laughter, no smug advice, just silence. I looked at them and said, "You wanted to talk." No one had anything to say. My mother finally spoke. How did this happen?" I looked her in the eye. "You remember that night, the one where you all laughed in my face?" No one answered. They didn't need to. "That night made me," I said. "Every insult, every joke, every time you made me feel small. It lit a fire in me." I turned to my brother. "You said I was embarrassing. You said I'd never make it." "Well, I did, quietly. While you were busy mocking me, I was building something you never saw coming." My father stayed silent. Proud man, now small in a chair across from me. I didn't yell. I didn't need to. I leaned forward, calm, steady. "You didn't believe in me when it mattered. Now you live in a house with my name on the deed. No one said a word. I let the silence hang. Let them feel it. Then I slid a paper across the table. The lease stays. Same terms. You can live here. Pay rent. Nothing more. Nothing less. I stood up. Or you can leave. Their eyes followed me. But no one moved. I'd said everything I needed to say. Now they had a choice. They stayed. They signed the new lease without a word. Every month, the rent arrived on time. No complaints, no excuses, just quiet compliance. The house stayed the same on the outside. But inside, everything had changed. The pride they once wore like armor was gone. The smug comments, the dismissive glances, gone. They didn't apologize, not once, but I stopped waiting for that. I didn't need it anymore. Every time the payment hit my account, I felt it. Not anger, not triumph, just peace. Not because I hurt them, but because I rose without them. They taught me to doubt myself, to feel small, and now, they unknowingly paid me to remember how far I'd come. That's all I ever needed. Not revenge, not praise, just proof that I was never the failure they said I was. And I didn't need to shout it. I didn't need to show off. Because sometimes, revenge isn't loud. It's silent, steady, and satisfying. They mocked my dream. Now they live in it. If this story hit you deep, hit that like button. Drop a comment if you've ever been doubted. Don't forget to subscribe. And share this with someone who needs to hear it. Revenge is best served successful.